yes, you can be a business owner and qualify for our program. You would just have to submit profit loss statements. We would have to get a good accounting of what the net income is for that business so that we can determine what your annual income is. So yeah, by all means, you can qualify for our program. Go ahead and pass that on.
I would just like to share as a head of counseling agency is if you are self-employed, it's very important that you have that conversation with your tax preparer, letting them know that you are preparing to purchase a home down the road. So that way we know that you have the required documentation such as a profit and loss form. You're tracking that. You want to make sure that if you're paying yourself, how much is that amount? Because those are things that we are looking at during the counseling session because we look at the forces of credit. And so that's important, right? And so you want to make sure that you have those conversations so that way you're ready. As a HUD-approved counseling agency, we'll take the average of the last 2 years to determine what that gross income to give you an amount of how much house you can purchase.
As a counselor, to determine if you are mortgage ready and you are self-employed, I will look at your last 3 year tax return. And I will use the net income the last 3 years to calculate to get the number to determine if you're mortgage ready or not. Yeah. You self-employed, you're still able to apply for first-time buyer document system like CD that I have mentioned. So don't be like discouraged that you self-employed, you cannot buy a home, you cannot apply for the first-time buyer. No, you can't.
All right, the last and final question, and we will open it up for Q&A. The last question for the panel is, why do I need a real estate agent? I didn't make these questions up, by the way, okay? I'm just reading.
The last question.
Having a real estate agent will, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, is definitely recommended because the real estate agent is a professional that can kind of hold your hand and kind of go through the process, know the disclosures, know the procedures of home inspection, just the entire process of actually purchasing a home. So it's highly recommended that you do have a real estate agent and help you with the entire process, especially if you're a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and second that. Just working with the city's down payment assistance program, there's a huge education of, really what is the process? What's the home buying process? What are the steps that I need to take? And really having that real estate agent there by your side, being a resource for you to be able to rely on and ask questions throughout the process is key. So I encourage you guys to get a representative.
Yes, and so your realtor is going to be the one that's going to be doing the negotiating on your behalf. And so that's an important role that they have. And you'll hear me say as a HUD-approved counseling agency because that's what we do. As a HUD-approved counseling agency, you want to make sure that you are you're having a realtor that has been seasoned, that has had history in the mortgage industry. And so, I'm proud to say that we have had volunteers with Gabriel Orange County as far as 2 decades. You want to have a realtor that understands down payment programs from the very beginning to the very end. They know what the process is like. They know what the paperwork is like. They already have an established relationship with city entities, which is great because they know the process from beginning to end, and that could be a smooth process. And I think our partners can relate. As a HUD-approved counseling agency, we will encourage first-time home buyers to interview at least 3 realtors. Chemistry is going to go a long way. So you want to make sure that they understand your needs, they know what your wants and needs are, and then your purchasing power too, right? And so we do highly encourage first-time home buyers to have a conversation or interview, if you will, at least 3 realtors to help you make the biggest financial decision of your lifetime.
Yes, I always encourage you to have the realtor to protect you and be on your side. Always contact and at least 3 realtors and select the one that you're comfortable to work with and trust. Then from there, you can work with them. Because I know first-time buyers, as soon as they get the approval, the first month they're very excited. They're everywhere. After the first month, they calm down. And they say, oh, I can't find her. I say, no, you have to continue. It takes about 6 months to 7 months. So as a counselor, I always encourage my client. And I can see the volume of the client become homeowner in the last 6 months. Because I have to be on the side with them. I have to encourage follow up with them almost every 2 weeks. Say how you doing, how's everything with the lender, how's everything with the realtor. So we, as a head counselor like Sarah, we have to follow up and encourage the home buyer to continue with the process. Because after the first month, everything will calm down and it's hard for them. They about to give up. We have to support them, mentally support. Yes.
Well said. And the other thing too is when you start going out and looking for a home in Garden Grove or Santa Ana, I would ask your realtor, I think the most important thing is what do they know about the down payment assistance programs here in Santa Ana and Garden Grove? And if they don't know about it, well, you can ask them to find out, or you interview another realtor. So I mean, it's you know, a realtor. First of all, are there any realtors in the room today that? So if you look around, these realtors with their hands up took the time out of their day to also join in to learn a little bit more about the down payment assistance program. And that speaks volume to their commitment to their clients, right? Because they're going to be a little bit more prepared. When a client comes up and says, I'm looking to buy a home in Garden Grove or Santa Ana, they have the knowledge that you all will need to take advantage of the assistance. So I've asked enough questions and I've probably talked more than I was supposed to, but we do have a few minutes for Q&A for the panelists. So if you have a question, feel free. Thank you for that, Joan, right here.
Yeah, so since we're talking about realtors, I heard that there was a new law coming out, and I think before regarding the pay rate for real estate agents. So now you have to negotiate pay, and it used to be that was 2% for the seller, 3% for the buyer, but it was 6%, and initially the seller would cover the cost, total cost for that. But now with this new law, does that mean that the buyer so the buyer has to negotiate his own pay rate to their real estate agent? Does that mean can you still ask the seller to cover the cost, or do you have to cover the cost? So that means that you have to have 3% lien for the down payment and plus 1 to 3% for the real estate agent, right?
So that's a phenomenal question. I think you almost answered that for everybody in the room. I myself am not a real estate agent, and if you would like, we can answer it up here, but what I would do is you saw the hands go up in the room, and that is a cost. So this young lady right in front of me, right? So I think after we disperse is to ask that question, but you're just about spot on with the buyers now having to negotiate the cost of having an agent represent them. So I personally, I'm not going to go into the details there because that's not my specialty, but we do have the specialists here in the room. I mean, I would. Anybody want to answer that in detail?
You know, I am not a realtor, but what I will say is with those changes coming, that's more of an importance to start saving. You know, does that mean that I'm going to pay more out of pocket? That means that I'm going to have to save a little bit more so that way you are ready. And that's an important question to ask your realtor. I know that you asked who the realtors were. Can we get if you could raise your hands for those realtors that are here? Someone, do you want them to go to them after?
I would contact them after. What we're saying, or essentially what the question is if you're going to go buy a home, right? So you go out, you make an offer on a home, you now have to negotiate what the percentage of what you're going to pay towards the real estate agent that's representing you. So back before, it hasn't gone into effect yet, right? But before, the person selling the home would cover the commission for the agent who's representing the buyer, and of course who's representing the seller. Now there's a negotiation opportunity on the table. Okay, well, I'm the buyer, you're my real estate agent. What percentage am I paying you to represent me? Is it 3%? Is it 2%? Is the person selling the home willing to cover that still? And that's the importance of having a real estate professional that's well versed in what they do for a living. But I think that's probably the most simple and straightforward way of explaining it. But again, I would strongly encourage the real estate professionals in the room. If you saw their hands go up, contact them. But that's the short version of that.
I was wondering, is there an expiration date from when you are approved for the loan for you to find a house?
Great question. What do you guys think?
So when you're getting pre-qualified, we actually do the pre-quals that last for a long time. You can apply today, and typically the credit will expire in about 3 months. So we can keep that pre-qual open for a while. Now it's different when we're talking about the down payment assistance, though, because if you want to combine it with the down payment assistance program, they have certain funds allocated for that. So if they retire the down payment assistance program, we won't have the funds remaining to, actually help you with that. However, with a pre-qual, that's a great question. We keep it open for a very long time. Once the credit does expire, we just renew it another 3 months, kind of see where you're at. But, I've had pre-quals that are open for 2 years. So, people haven't found the right home they wanted to take time. They wanted to go, so it just depends, But yeah, that's a good question. We keep our pre-quals open for quite a long time. It's definitely I encourage you to get a pre-qual, so you at least have a starting base, so you know where you're at. If you're not ready, or if you are ready, if you didn't know you were ready, you still keep that open, so you can, if you're thinking about buying a home and, a couple months down the line, you have that pre-qual, it's ready for you. Yeah. And we're working on it quickly. And then, especially when the down payment assistance programs are involved, we want to make sure we have enough time to get you to a certain point when you're ready to go.
And for the city's program, we honor our pre-qualifications for a year. So those income limits on that big flyer right over there, they change annually. So we run our pre-qualifications for a year. So they'll be good for 1 year.
And we have another question. Yeah, right in the back there. I'll do you first.
I have a few, but I'll just start with one. If you're a person like a buyer who's a first-time home buyer with the down payment assistance program, how are they when they're trying to buy a home? How are they more competitive, or have you ever seen them be successful in getting a home versus another buyer who has a better credit score and a higher down payment?
So, when you say that, basically if you have a pre-qualification, you're solid, I think what happens is when you get pre-qual, a loan officer could determine where you're at, and they'll be able to, with Wells Fargo, we actually have what's called a conditional approval, where we actually have your whole entire file underwritten by a underwriter. They actually see where you're at. Super competitive in the sense of once you get a conditional approval, we also will work with the down payment assistance program. We get you to a point where you're pretty much good to go. Super competitive in regards to other offers that may be going on. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
If there's another offer, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, first-time home buyer. But we get you to a point where you're qualified, where it's really streamlined. So, and that's called the conditional approval that we have. And that's further on than just a pre-qual. And that will give you the confidence of making the offer, knowing that you have a conditional approval, that the underwriters look at it, we're good to go. Down payment assistance, we run it through that. And you're just at a position where you should feel quite confident about closing the deal. So you would be very competitive with the other offers there.